It's Squidward! What's he doing here? Xbox Ready.
What's up guys, and welcome back to Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that is all about Xbox. I'm filming this after what turned out to be a really awesome but admittedly tiring weekend. I was at Summer Games Fest, I was at the Xbox Showcase, I was hanging out with a bunch of people that came out for those shows, and I was still putting up videos, still putting up content. So yes, I am a little tired, but guys, the work never stops. Now more than ever, I have to keep you up to date on everything going on in the Xbox world, and there's a ton of stuff to talk about, a ton of awesome stuff, especially after Xbox had such a great show on Sunday. If you're new to the channel and you want to stay Xbox ready, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. And also below the video I have links to all sorts of really awesome Xbox stuff, including the new Starfield controller and headset that are available now. The story that I'm about to get into is either really good or really bad news, depending on how you feel about a mid-gen refresh for console. Now, me personally, I was very intrigued on how Xbox was gonna handle the situation of a mid-gen refresh. Were they gonna hit us with a Series X Pro or a Series S Plus, a digital Series X? I've been hearing a lot of rumors about the PlayStation 5 Pro, a PlayStation Slim, so I was very curious to see what they were gonna reveal. My gut was telling me for a long time that they were gonna go for something in the middle of a Series S and a Series X, whether it be a digital Series X or a beefier version of the Series S. And we kind of got that at Sunday's show when they revealed the Black Series S that now has a full terabyte of storage. It was really awesome to see new hardware being introduced at the show. It was just like the cherry on top to what was already a pretty strong showing. But for anyone out there still wondering if we're gonna get a Pro version of either the Series X or S, Phil Spencer's latest comments may be an indication on how Xbox is gonna handle that situation moving forward. She said that it doesn't feel imperative for Xbox to release a mid-gen refresh. He further clarified, saying, "That's not the feedback we're getting right now. Right now, we're pretty set on the hardware we have." And again, depending on how you feel about Pro consoles, mid-gen consoles, this could be either a good or a bad thing. Me personally, I like the hype of, a shiny new console, a Pro console, a Slim console. And of course, as someone who makes Xbox content, it's always really, really exciting to talk about news of a new console, a new Xbox to all of you guys. But pretty much anytime I talk about a Pro version to either the Series X or S, I see a lot of feedback. I see a lot of people in the comments being like, what is the point, Ray? What is the point? A lot of people couldn't even get their hands on a Series X up until very, very recently. And on top of that, the games that are coming out for both of these consoles are cross-generational. There's really no reason for a Pro version of either the X or S. Why would they release it if we haven't even really seen what these consoles can do? And while yes, I like the excitement of new hardware, mid-gen consoles, I do see the wisdom of this move on Xbox's part. The console shortages are over, people are able to actually get their hands on either an X, definitely an S. And the big criticism of Xbox this generation hasn't been the hardware. People aren't out here complaining about, oh, like the nuts and bolts of the Series X. Sometimes the Series S gets flack, but overall I still think that's a great machine, and I've talked to a lot of developers that agree. The big criticism is obviously the games, and that definitely seems to be the focus going forward for Xbox. Phil Spencer did mention in a private conference held for just the media and for other content creators that consoles were super important. They were paramount to Xbox's strategy going forward. I know a lot of people were afraid of like, oh, as they dabble in PC gaming, as they dabble in cloud gaming, will they forget and neglect the console experience? And that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like they're staying pat with the Xbox Series X and the black and white Series S. Now I want to circle back into something that I mentioned in my last video, my reaction to the showcase. Towards the end of that private conference I just mentioned, Sarah Bond dropped a really cool bit of information that I feel was glossed over in the moment. I'm referring to this partnership that PC Game Pass has now with GeForce Now. Now Xbox has released an official statement regarding what that partnership is going to look like and how it's going to be incorporated into PC Game Pass. At first, I mistakenly thought that GeForce Now was going to be somewhat bundled into Game Pass, giving subscribers was a way to play games that are not on the Game Pass library through cloud gaming or stream them. It turns out it's the reverse situation. GeForce Now is going to be basically enabling people to play PC Game Pass titles on devices that normally wouldn't, like low-end computers, laptops, MacBooks, whatever. But Ray, don't we already kind of have that? Don't we already have Xbox Cloud Gaming? And yes, I sort of get that, but cloud gaming for Xbox is geared mostly towards the titles that we see on console Game Pass. This new partnership is focused on bringing PC Game Pass titles to streaming, which is really cool because even though a lot of the library is the same on console and PC Game Pass, there are certain things on PC Game Pass that you can't play on console and vice versa. I know Warhammer Darktide is still on PC Game Pass but not on console. All of the Age of Empires except for Age of Empires 2 are only available on PC Game Pass. So yeah, I thought this was really exciting, but they further clarified. At first, people were reporting that you'd be able to access the entirety of the PC Game Pass library through GeForce Now. But they have clarified since then, and apparently you can only access select titles, and that is slightly less cool, I'm gonna have to admit it. But still, we can sort of look at this as like the first step in the partnership. Right now, it starts with select titles, maybe they expand it in the future, and it's definitely cool to see an option to play some cloud games via PC Game Pass versus console Game Pass. Maybe there's a lot more mouse and keyboard support as a result. The goal of this partnership, it's obvious, right? They're trying to make nice with the United Kingdom because they blocked Xbox's acquisition, or Microsoft's acquisition, sorry, of Activision Blizzard over cloud gaming concerns. So yeah, this whole thing is very strategic, but it could also be really cool going forward for Game Pass Ultimate subscribers, for PC Game Pass subscribers. So obviously Sunday, Xbox had their showcase, and they had a little conference after for media, but then afterwards they showed us 3 games that were part of the showcase. We got to play one of them, and the other 2 were just presentations. It basically served as a more in-depth look at some of these titles that were shown off at the showcase. Those titles were Forza Motorsport, 33 Immortals, and Dungeons of Hinterberg. They were kind of rotating people around, different creators, different people from the press, through these presentations. I started off playing 33 Immortals. This is a game developed by Thunder Lotus, and I'm sure if you saw it at Sunday's show, you were probably thinking to yourself, oh, this game looks like Hades. And yeah, I would say that there are a lot of similarities between 33 Immortals and Hades. It's a roguelike just like Hades, so you're trying to go through these dungeons, but if you die, you gotta start all the way over again. It has gorgeous 2D animation just like Hades does. I'm a big fan of the art style. But whereas Hades is based on Greek mythology, 33 Immortals is based off of Dante's Divine Comedy. The way they pitched it to us was that you're a rebel trying to escape the different levels of hell in order to destroy God. And obviously God is not too happy about that. So not only are you fighting against a bunch of scary demon people, but there will be times where God steps in and is like, you have to dodge a bunch of lightning or like dodge this catastrophic event that he's trying to throw your way in an effort to prevent you from reaching the surface. The big thing about this game, and they showed it off a little bit at the show, was that you could play with up to 33 people, which is pretty dang impressive. I remember back in the day, big team battles for Halo was 12 on 12, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I did not play with 33 other different people. I played in a group of 6, and I gotta say, I had a really good time. 3 of us had swords, so we were like a melee class, and then the other 3 had bow and arrow. I played as the rebel with the sword, and basically it was a mix of light and heavy attacks, and you can combo into more special attacks. There are co-op attacks as well, so my character had an ability that you can summon like healing circles, but they had to be activated at the same time with your teammates. This is all going to be familiar to you if you played Hades or Dead Cells, but as you go along, you kill monsters, you unlock chests, you can equip different gear that further refines your build and introduces you to new styles of play. Overall, I think this game is cool. It looked interesting when they showed it off in the actual showcase, so I'm really glad I got to have some hands-on time with it as well. I will say though, there's one thing that I know is going to bother a lot of people at this game, and it's not the gameplay, it's not the performance. The team did confirm that this game is going to require a persistent online connection in order to play. And I'm just saying, historically, that has drawn a lot of criticism from the gaming community. When they announced the always online for Redfall and Diablo, a lot of people had a lot of things to say about it. Diablo 4 got a pass because everyone loves that game, but I'm not so sure how their community is going to respond to 33 Immortals having an online connection. They did open it up to questions afterwards, and I was curious if there was going to be any potential for private matches, like, oh, I just host a match with me and my friends, and apparently the matchmaking is always open. Like, people are always going to have the freedom to jump into your game or jump out. Of course, the game is still pretty far from releasing, so a lot of changes can occur from now until release. And they did mention that they were working on a way to have those private matches so you could just play with your friends and not any randoms, no strangers. But yeah, the always online stuff had me a little concerned. It raised my eyebrows a little bit, but overall I think 33 Immortals is a really solid project, and I'm looking forward to the full release. 33 Immortals doesn't have a firm release date, but it's set to be out sometime in 2024, and it's also coming to Game Pass as well. They then showed us 13 minutes of gameplay of Dungeons of Hinterberg. The game is like a dungeon crawler, monster slayer, and there's also like a social sim aspect to it. We learned that the game is set at an Austrian ski resort where 25 dungeons have suddenly appeared. And because those dungeons have appeared, this has attracted tourists and adventurers from all over. Like I mentioned before, your sword is your main weapon, but you also have a snowboard, you also have magical attacks, and they showed us some really cool ones involving wind magic and meteor magic. I did notice in the gameplay that they were showing us that there was a perfect dodge mechanic, and I live for that stuff. Parry, perfect dodge, I'm all about it. I also really enjoyed when they were showing us the multifaceted aspect of your spells. They're not just about doing damage, it's not just about combat. For example, you can cast a tornado spell and use it to navigate the dungeons, reach higher ledges, things like that. The monsters in this game are based on Alpine mythology, and I thought they really looked cool, especially this dude with like the super long neck that buries his head into the ground and then sprouts up somewhere else. There is a social aspect, sort of like Persona 5, like you go and you do dungeons, you kill monsters, and then you get to go back to the ski resort where you can shop around town, you can develop relationships with certain NPCs, and the further you develop your relationship with some people, they can give you stuff like different spells and different gear. So it looks like there is a gameplay incentive to develop relationships with NPCs and not just a story or social one. Similar to the Persona games, there is a day and night cycle and in-game calendar. There's no firm release date for Dungeons of Hinterberg, but it's set to be released sometime in 2024, and it is coming to Game Pass as well. We also got to see a really good look at Forza Motorsport, set to come out on October 10th. The gameplay walkthrough was hosted by Chris Isaki, who is the creative director of Turn 10 Studios. The GM of Motorsport, Dan Greenwalt, was also there. And getting the obvious stuff out of the way first, it looks gorgeous, guys. Like, it looks really, really awesome from a graphical perspective. When they were on the track, though, and they were racing, there was no ray tracing, which honestly, it's like, I can take it or leave it at this point. Ray tracing is one of those things where it's like, it's almost becoming like a buzzword almost. And as we get further into the generation, we're starting to realize like, okay, maybe real-time ray tracing all the time is not as feasible as we may have hoped at the start of this console generation. The lighting in this game looks gorgeous as well. They showed off the dynamic time and weather changes, and I was able to confirm with the team that performance on the Series S is very similar to the Series X, the only difference being the resolution, which is great news for all of my Series S owners out there, or if you're thinking about getting a Series S, maybe the new one with the full terabyte. Chris even took it a step further and said he's played most of the new Motorsport on his own personal Series S, so that was very encouraging to hear. Now, y'all know me. Y'all already know what I'm gonna say. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. I am not a racing game guy. I've just never been. I don't know why. I just never got into them. They're not my thing. But even if that's the case, there was a lot of things that they were showing off that definitely appealed to me. Apparently, Chris Isaki's pitch for this game over 5 years ago was centered around the motto, built, not bought. A big emphasis of the presentation was on the Builder's Cup, and forgive me if this has already appeared in other motorsports, but for those of you who don't know, like me, maybe you're not familiar with Motorsport, it's basically a mode where you go through and after every race, after every practice, you can use points and money and trick out your car with different parts and stuff. It's a little bit like an RPG in that way, which is something I'm definitely familiar with. The team at Turn 10 essentially told us that they want you to have a relationship with your car. Not like that, guys, not like that, like a connection with your car, even if it's a Honda Civic or something like that. Which again is something that resonates with me as someone who's played a lot of RPGs, a lot of MMOs. Lord knows I've spent hours grinding for a specific weapon weapon to go with my build, or gathering crafting materials to craft a certain set of armor. And they did mention that all your points, once you have them, you can refund them for other stuff if you want, so you can endlessly respec. So yeah, I think it speaks volumes for someone like me who's not into racing games to be like, okay, I want to check this out. And it seemed like the other people in the room who were really into the Motorsport franchise, who were into Forza in general, were really pleased with the presentation. Anyways guys, that's all the news I have for today. Again, big shout out to Team Xbox for inviting me to the showcase, for getting me into all of those really awesome presentations. Also, big shout out to everyone in the community who came out and said hi during FanFest. Maybe you'll see some of your other favorite Xbox YouTubers here on Xbox Ready. Maybe you'll see me on some other Xbox podcasts and videos and things like that. We'll see. Either way, that's it for today's video, and we'll see you in the next one.